Maybe you'd like us to ask you questions.
Can we take a pass?
Where are you going to take it?
I thought Suvansh's question this morning was very interesting about, and all the discussion around the stages of discouraging one's obscurations or getting rid of them 6 at a time. I'd never heard any of those teachings before. But what I thought was interesting, or what I'm having a question about, is as one eliminated the particular obscurations, the first 6, the second 6, and the third 6, would you experience that? How would one experience that and know whether one had gotten past the particular obscuration that one had been working on? I didn't know I had 18, but now I'm fully acquainted with that.
It was only 16.
Well, he just mentioned the last 6, so yeah. I thought there were 18, but okay. I stand corrected. 16.
You have a connection with those things, Bill?
No.
That's how deep our obscurations are. We can't even see it.
Well, I've never refined mine out into 16 obscurations.
Yeah.
I mean,
Suvansh was.
I can only see 2 or 3.
Suvansh was referring to a particular text from the Pali Canon that enumerated things in a very particular way, and I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, but
and then
obscurations, right?
Yeah, and then he mapped it back to the 5 kleshas.
I'll settle for 5.
Yeah, yeah. A small-minded people can go for 5 easier than 16.
Had you heard that before, Bill?
No, I don't go that far afield.
Yeah, me either.
The one thing that I could see in it was that if just like with any practice where you're asked to put your mind on something in a way that you haven't put your mind on it before, that you might see something about your outlook and your behavior. And so if you refine it, like we will often say, well, if anger is arising, put your attention on that. And if somebody says, anger, yeah, anger. I hadn't thought about putting my attention on anger. So enumerating the 5 has some validity, and I could imagine that 16 would have also some more particulars to it. So
What do you think? It's like little breakouts of the 5?
I don't know. I'm just imagining how it could be useful in terms of encouraging one to pay attention in a more refined way.
That makes sense.
Which I think that was a lot of your answer this morning had to do with just the particular move of bringing your attention to your experience, and if you have that refinement, then you might be able to check into certain things.
Yeah. in various times, hearing teachings from different teachers. One of my favorites has always been that every teaching of the Dharma contains the entire path and all of the remedies and things. And of course, we don't see that, but sometimes it's helpful to look at that while you're engaged in your practice, that in some way it contains all of the things, like whatever it is that you're doing, no matter how small or how big it is. And other times I think we just are capable of being very facile with the pieces of the teaching, and that we can see all of them and practice all of them and see how they work together. But to see all of the iterations all of the time seems nearly impossible and not particularly helpful. So we each have certain proclivities. You know, you can say, well, we saw Suvansha's proclivity today, but was it his proclivity tomorrow? Maybe something different. He may make some discovery in all of those things and then come back with something that is helpful for everybody or not.
Well, you still didn't answer the basic question.
Which was?
We'll just go with 5, because I can recognize 5 in my stream of being. If one managed to bring a significant recognition to 1 or 2 of the obscurations, and one felt that one's stream of being wasn't maybe rid of it completely, but
Wasn't
reduced.
rid of it?
Or
what
maybe
you said?
rid of it, yeah. Would you experience something different from your basic self?
Would you experience?
Yeah.
It's a question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah.
And what would you experience? Would it be any closer to enlightenment?
I think if what is your experience, I can't answer, because I think that's a personal experience.
Mm.
So you'd have to probably answer that yourself. I'm not sure if somebody else's answer wouldn't necessarily be that helpful. But what do you find in it that's helpful? Looking at
Well,
those.
I keep wondering if perhaps I should pay attention to perhaps another obscuration, like I did in the beginning of my practice. I remember Kala Rinpoche saying, and Bill mentioned it the last time he taught, heap all your practice on your obscurations.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that, because I'm sort of a carrying practice type of person. So I'm always looking at my mind and seeing my own reactivity, or trying to see what's going on with me. But would I deliberately pick another practice if I thought that I had not necessarily achieved the whole thing of one obscuration, but if I'd made a significant dent in it and was no longer my major obscuration? Should I move on to another one? And how do I pick and choose?
Well, it's a good question. There's so many ways that you can approach these obscurations, and there's so much said about them, and especially you recall all the things that Kala Rinpoche used to say about the obscurations and how important it was to work with them in some way. But the means by which one works with them, whether you follow a specific kind of formula to work with them, or whether you work with them kind of as you feel inspired to do it.
How about as they arise?
Well, that's the best of all.
Yeah.
That's the best of all. But when someone you'd never known before, you just met, slapped you in the face really hard, it's a little difficult in that moment to work with the klesha on the spot, so you might have to slap them back first. Just kidding.
I would try to remember, who was it that slapped his student on the cheek with a shoe? Who did that?
Who did what?
Slapped the student on the cheek with a shoe?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Who was that?
Talopa.
Talopa. Okay, so anyhow, I don't think I'd slap Talopa back.
Well, I'd say you might have found your match at that point. Maybe that would be joyful.
And maybe I'd have a complete dispelment of that obscuration if he did that.
I think it's interesting when you work on these obstacles for a long time. What we routinely find is that there's periods when there doesn't seem to be any progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes the progress seems to occur without any effort at all. And so then we might decide, like, great, it doesn't need any effort, and then nothing happens for a while. And then we come back and forth. And I'm not sure that it makes a lot of difference which of the various methods that you use.
Mm-hmm.
I keep having the toothpaste analogy. I don't know why the toothbrush analogy, because I remember once, about 10 years ago, I asked the dentist, which toothbrush should I use? And she said, the one you use is the one to use. And at that very time, that was a really good piece of advice. I think that in a way, you could say that about lots of the Dharma practices too. If you're under the guidance of a teacher that you feel deeply connected to, and they're helping you, and you feel like you're getting something from it or getting a lot from it, if that person says, do X, Y, or Z, of course you're completely inclined to do that. And because that person said to do it, you also have a certain level of confidence that's sort of thrown in free of charge.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to work for it because of your connection there. And so that can be helpful. But let's say that person dies.
They did.
And you still have the connection, and you still use that connection,
Mm-hmm.
which is also part of our tradition,
Mm-hmm.
that dead or alive, your teacher is useful. The same one that was alive before could be possibly even more useful after they die than they were when they were alive. And there's plenty of stories to entertain ourselves with around that. But fundamentally, just speaking from my own side, if I find a practice and I work with it and try it, and I find that my kleshas, my unbounded, conflicted emotions lessen, I'm inclined to just continue with that. And other practices that look like they might do that maybe I received the instruction for 10 years ago and never did anything with it, and how many of those do we have? And so I might think, I think I'll try that practice. I have the instruction for it and all. I go and work on it. And sometimes it's like, wow, where's this been? This is wonderful. And other times, it just seems totally flat. So I feel like I'm a proponent of the kind of diligence which is, I just don't quit. I just keep moving on it. And if I can do a little practice every day, that's great. And on some days when I can do a lot of practice, that's great. And if I meet somebody in the grocery store and they look unhappy and I can say some things and have a conversation, they feel happy, I feel good about that. And then I get a sense that the Dharma is wonderful. It's like all of the teachings contain all the teachings again. And so I feel inspired from that perspective. And sometimes all of the things that felt like they were an inspiration collapse. And nothing feels like an inspiration. So I'm not so good at advising on particular things in terms of a long time, you should do this for the next 20 years. But I think that instruction is great for some people and for some teachers, for some relationships with teachers and so on. And I'm more of a proponent of, you got something that's working, why not work more with it? Why not get some little instructions that might enhance it for starters, so that you feel, well, that's a twist I didn't think of, and gradually get more and more so that you have a deeper and deeper confidence in the path and a deeper sense of appreciation of your own work in that regard, and the whole thing feels like this is really worthwhile. That's more my approach to it, I think.
I remember one time you talked about when we know we're going to encounter a situation which likely will provoke something within us, like a person that whenever we see him, we just blossom with fury or something. So we prepare ourselves ahead of time so that we know that that occasion is going to happen. And then I suppose that would be the time to bring your awareness to your anger or to whatever that person provoked and use it that way. But count on having a little preview time to the experience.
Get ready.
Mm-hmm. I remember you said that, so I thought that was good
sometimes
advice.
backfires.
Why?
Also. Why? Because the most helpful things, the most potentially helpful things, are often the most difficult. It's kind of like if I say, rest your awareness on this thing that rings the bell, there's no big inspiration there. There's not much power in it. But if you're going to go and meet somebody who you've had nothing but discord with for the last 30 years, to put your awareness on that is powerful. It's powerful partly because it could sink you, but it has the potential to actually give rise to something extraordinary. So of course we want to do that. And it's another one of those things, you got to do them both, I think. Because if you always only put your awareness on the penny that you found on the street 20 years ago, it's kind of like you get a penny's worth out of it. And your anger and your jealousy and your greed and pride and all the cliches continue to swirl around. Maybe you don't even notice them because you can rest for 5 minutes with your awareness on the penny. And sometimes that works. But
What, resting your awareness on the penny?
Yeah, who's
Pennies
to say?
don't provoke you much.
Well, somebody else they might. But it's clear that the reason why Kala Rinpoche used to say, with fair regularity, heap the entire Dharma on your biggest obscuration. So I never heard anybody say, heap the entire Dharma. That is to say, all your practice and all the things that you know about the Dharma, to heap all of that on some little slightly irritating obscuration. You won't get anything back for that effort. So I think the idea was that, one, you will not undermine all of those obscurations and obstacles by just doing small things with it. It requires a big thing. So therefore, the teaching, take all the Dharma that you know, and heap it all onto one thing, and you put it on the big thing. Because if you do it on the little thing, maybe you can pat yourself on the back for having eliminated it, but actually you didn't. In the end, you didn't get that much. And the big thing can be a cause for enormous inspiration by virtue of undoing the things that have bothered you for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that if one is experiencing a sense of contentment and complacency, that one should be alarmed? Again, connected to looking at one's obscurations. I got a soft life recently.
Soft what?
Life.
You have a soft life?
Well, yeah, a new house all on one floor, and
Oh, I see.
everything's pretty easy.
Yeah. I don't know what that has to do with it.
Well, it doesn't arouse much. So there's a sense
Yeah.
of contentment and complacency.
Well, again, it's what it's what you're capable of doing and what inspires you. I remember the first time that I heard some teacher say that in the context of having an authentic guru that you practice with, you take all the difficult circumstances that come to you as a gift from that teacher.
Mm.
And definitely, if you can master that you just hold the view, kind of like putting on your sunglasses, and you take everything that comes, whether it's joyful or not, easy or difficult, you take it all as a gift from the guru. And of course, easy things and really difficult things and the whole panoply of the whole thing comes over time. And I always thought that was a fantastic instruction.
Mm-hmm.
But again, even doing that for some period of time, it finally comes to a place where something happens that we ordinarily call boredom. And I don't particularly like that word in this context, but it's kind of like that. Like what was an inspiration yesterday is not an inspiration today.
Thank you.
Lama Michael, I've heard you teach on seeing everything as a gift from our guru, and that being
Cheap
a
talk.
inspiring talk, and turn my attitude upside down talk, useful talk, but you've referred to it as the heroic path.
As the what?
Heroic path, seeing everything as a gift from my guru, and it would connect in my mind with everyone being my mother, as in any hardship, any challenge, any difficulty, any klesha has the ability to be a teacher and to somehow feed or nurture me. But the idea, like, I didn't hear it till just now, that it's all a gift from my guru includes pleasurable things. I mean, what I in my secular day-to-day life would call pleasure.
Yeah.
But I also heard Tara's comment about the complacency, and you used the word you didn't want to use, boredom. So it's the pleasure which has the complacency and the, not boredom, but I think of it as mind going to sleep, awareness going to sleep. And that's hard to see as a gift from my guru until I wake up, until I aware of it again. So it's kind of funny to hear that being a gift from the guru, something that leads to complacency or being so slack I'm not aware. Any comment?
Endless. Endless.
What's that mean?
Endless comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never actually heard that the gift from the guru could also be joyful. I've never heard that. But I have heard that the relationship with the guru should bring you joy and all the other things. So my sense is that it's really like whatever you receive. Basically, you're acknowledging the role of your relationship with that person in your life in regards to all of your experiences. The ones that are pleasant, the ones that are unpleasant, the whole thing. So that's the way that you are able to embrace the 24/7 approach to practice, whatever it is. I'm here to make it happen. I'm here to work with it. I think that's the basis of it. But it's also nice just when you get a rotten package in the mail, kind of, where there's something that is really difficult. If you work with a certain practice a lot, you're more likely to easily flip into the place of this situation is a gift from the Guru. So again, all of these pieces of the Dharma contain the entire path, so that if you can work with it from that angle, sometimes you have more things to work with. I guess I would say more options to work with.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Mm. How are we doing?
Along the lines of
There you got it.
along the lines of Cynthia's tag along, I'm going to tag along on that and ask, is all these gifts from the Guru, is that what inspires Guru devotion? I've never ever quite really figured out how to get Guru devotion. But if one looked upon all the things good and bad as coming from the Guru, that might inspire devotion. Is that how one inspires devotion?
What is that? What are you talking about?
Recognizing the gifts from the Guru as a core piece of one's life. Is that a way to inspire devotion to the Guru? I mean, I hear that phrase from time to time about devotion to the Guru.
Right.
And it's never been anything I could artificially generate. So I was looking for some way to have devotion, and the word has sort of always stopped me in my tracks because it feels like goo.
Like what?
Goo.
Yep.
I hate it. It just isn't my modality, shall we say. But I did want to know what felt like devotion to the Guru, and where does that come from, and how does one get it? I mean, it seems to be that it's something that one should have or aspire to, and I've never quite, I mean, I can say that I love the Guru sometimes, I mean, if I think of a particular one, and like that, but devotion is kind of a different thing. It's sort of like they are way up there, and I'm way down here, and I'm very devoted to them.
Yeah, I also feel a little bit like the use of the word devotion itself is slightly unfortunate in many cases. However, what it points to is not at all unfortunate. It's really the key to how we work with our practice and the relationship with the guru. And when we look at it close, we can see that one of the things that we have naturally with a teacher that we have a relationship with and things are, going okay, is that we have a sense of respect for that person. So it should be a kind of a really strong respect, like respect. They know the Dharma, they practice the Dharma, they wear it, they appear like the Dharma, and so we have a sense of respect for that, and not only respect, but a sense of appreciation for it and for the teachings that we get. And so if we come at it from that angle, we can have a little better view of the whole thing. Than the word devotion is so easy to get tangled up in. Mm-hmm. I did for a long. I always thought, like, why would I want to be a small dog that follows the master around and nips at the heels? Like that seemed like what it was, but clearly that's not it. The respect and appreciation are major pieces, so that we can feel like what we're doing is actually a very worthwhile to do. Bill, can you define the mugu? I don't have that in my fingertips. Tell me about it.
I'll look it up here in just a second to get it exact, but that the qualities of respect, and kind of a profound appreciation, those qualities, and in there a sense of a very sense of directness and openness in that sense of appreciation and connection. So the notion of devotion being relating to this thing up on high and far away is actually not part of it's not part of the deal. You might appreciate the qualities of a teacher and think that they're in current manifestations relatively moi, and that I don't have those qualities and the teacher does. But that's a different thing than actually thinking they're on high and far away. The aim in the end of all the Guru Yoga practices, all that relationship, is seeing that there is no difference. There is no difference. There's no fundamental difference between you and the Guru, between you and the Buddha. That's the entire point of it.
Of devotion?
Yes. So you actually open yourself to those qualities. And in the mirror that's offered by the Guru, you open yourself to the qualities that are actually already there in you.
That's hitting the mark.
So that there, it's a very, and that's why I completely agree with Michael. It's like, could we just take the person who came up with the word devotion, stuck it on there? Can we take him out and back? And
Yeah, I always had trouble with it too.
We'll
because
spank them. We'll spank them very gently, and because we're good Buddhists. But
well, I would like to ink it out of every text.
yeah,
Or put in a substitute word.
It's a tricky thing, and one of the things about thinking there are different ways that the piece of the gift of the guru is talked about, and sometimes we talk about all the things that arise are the gift of the guru, in sort of with a sense of in order for us to figure something out, or in order for us to work with something in particular. So that's one piece. There's another is that everything that arises is the play of the guru's mind. But then this gets us back to, where are we pointing back to? Everything that arises is the play of the mind.
Well, that's beautiful.
And
because
then when we think everything that arises is the play of the guru's mind, we might go, I better check it out.
Yeah.
As opposed to, there's so-and-so and I don't like that. Ooh, there's so-and-so. No, it's all the play of the guru. If you actually step into that, then you take your every little scrap of your experience differently. You can actually do that, so that can then the sense of devotion is actually more a sense of closeness and immediacy as opposed to distance.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Thank you.
Can I add something? Having known Kala Rinpoche, is it on? Yeah. Having known Kala Rinpoche and Boka Rinpoche for many years, like a few of us had, and devotion is a very big part of my practice, and I think many others. But rather than just...
Sanjay pointed at your mouth.
Yeah, instead of just adding a whole lot of intellectual qualities to create this devotion, there's another possibility that the devotion can come from the heart, and it's an emotion like falling in love. And so for me, I'm in love with Kala Rinpoche and Boka Rinpoche. And it's an emotional feeling, as well as I can go down the list intellectually and say, yeah, that all works, but the part that really works is my heart. So that's how I feel. Well, I got to know.
That's not what I meant.
Next. That just reminded me of a very interesting story. Well, I don't know if it's very interesting. To me, it's very interesting. I met an Asian couple who were Buddhists, and we were beginning to talk in a restaurant about Buddhism, and I saw a pained look come across their face, and they said, please don't, like, I was a white guy with all these ideas about Buddha, and you could see that, don't overthink my dear, dear Buddha. Like, they asked me something like, let's not talk about Buddha like that. And you could tell their sense of real love and joy about Buddha. It was really different than understanding all the details. So.
Well, now I feel like I'm a tag on, because that was a pretty good way to wrap it up, actually. But Tara's question reminded me of one of my favorite stories. Was Tilopa's main student Naropa? Is that correct? Okay, so it's one of my favorite stories about Naropa and Tilopa. Tilopa asks Naropa the question, which practice is more important, Guru Yoga or Yidam practice? And Naropa, thinking, Yidam practice is a much higher tantric practice than Guru Yoga is, he says it must be Yidam practice. And Tilopa says, nope, wrong, because without your guru, how would you know about Idam practice? And that's really how I relate to the idea of guru devotion. It's sort of like, without the guru, what would I know in conventional terms? How would I have encountered the teachings as a sentient being? Because I'm, there's all those obscurations there. So I need some conventional other person who can, appear and transmit these teachings to me.
You have the essence of the story, right? But the cast of characters slightly off.
Who was it then, if not
It was-
Tilopa and Naropa?
It was Naropa and Marpa.
I always do that.
And I'm fairly certain of it. I could be wrong, but and the choice was Naropa actually manifested the appearance of the Idam in the sky, and then said, "So who are you going to offer prostrations to?"
That's right.
And Marpa said, "Well, I see you every day. Like, this is special." And so that was the. So, but you got the gist. You got the basic idea.
I did only read it the one time.
And looking up some of the variations on devotion, one of the most common is mugu, and mu has an aspect of longing. Sort of there's kind of a longing and the respect. That's one of the pairings that goes into it. Longing. So this, well, it's not just a kind of a cold respect. That I really respect the talent of that tennis player, but I have absolutely no interest in playing tennis. So it's a kind of connection where you actually are motivated to overcome the separation, to actually find that thing in yourself. So that's where the longing is. So it's active, and that's the heart part of it. Where
I just don't have that heart part. But when you said everything is the play of the guru's mind,
Mhm.
that is inspiring, because I can view my own life as being part of that. And as you say, that reduces the distance. And but I guess I don't fall in love that easily.
Fall in love that easily.
Yeah. Where the devotion to the guru is born out of a sense of falling in love with the guru.
Mhm.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't have to be that way. That this is one thing that I learned kind of early on, is that the different people's recipes don't have to be the same.
Thanks.
They really don't. And people's relationship with individuals, they both may have a deep connection with an individual, but the connection will be completely different in terms of the actual recipe. And that I think that's important to honor, and
Well, I
to
would
really
say
explore it.
sometimes I experience a fierce connection to the guru, but it wouldn't necessarily be a loving connection to the guru. And that's because experiences that were brought about by the Dharma teachings enabled me to confront something in a way that was different. And that sometimes comes at me like a thunderbolt from the guru. Now then, I wake up. That's more where it works. That's more the way it works for me. But now I'm beginning to see that that is a legitimate thing to call devotion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
like that. can get over devotion. I can just think of it the way I think of the guru.
I'm recalling at this moment in a conversation with Bokar Rinpoche that he used the word yearning also, yearning for the qualities of the guru. So that's another one of those moisture places, you know, where the dry becomes moist and warm. So there was the appreciation, the respect, and the yearning for the qualities of that person.
Or even the yearning for the next thunderbolt.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm good with my complacency. I'm looking for the thunderbolt.
I think going for the bell.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
I would like to thank